In this quick start, we're going to load an open API document to invoke the pet store's Swagger API service and show how to build test suites and view results of the tests in SOAPSonar. Our first step is to go ahead and load a JSON Swagger document that defines the API and the various services and operations that it provides. We can do so using the loading bar here that allows us to load this open API document that provides definitions of the services and operations of the API that can be invoked. Project types in the project tree can be WSDL or Open API or any custom project where you can define our own types of inputs across any variant of JSON, XML, REST, batch for or versatile customized testing scenarios that you want to create. Here we'll use the Open API document to create our project. Once loaded, you can see from the configuration documents that SOAPSonar will not only import the Open API document, it will also convert the document from Open API version 3 to API version 2, or vice versa, so that you have access to both their versions of both the JSON and the YAML specification of the Open API document. This document defines the API information that is presented here in graphical form around the types of parameters and all the information used to invoke it. Generally, you likely won't need to see the document in raw form, unless you want to, for example, export a converted rendition of the YAML format to JSON format, or vice versa. For the quick start, we will keep it simple. For our purposes, we're going to focus in on a few API operations that we can invoke. We'll get into more detail about many of the SOAPSonar built-in features in subsequent videos. In this quick start video, we'll go ahead and select one of the operations, Find Pets by Status. You can right-click on that item and choose to create a new Open API test, or you can click the New Test button. SOAPSonar will then create a new test case based on the information provided by the Open API document with all of the settings stored with this test case. SOAPSonar presents the various inputs expected for this particular API operation. This API operation is defined to be an HTTP GET method. SOAPSonar will preset the method to a GET and defines a parameter called available, which has been defined within the Open API document, and the various expected values that this parameter could take. In this case, there's only one valid value, which is the actual value of available. We will go ahead and replace the variable available with the actual value available. We type in the actual value to be used and then click to replace, which will automatically go through all of the areas where that parameter was referenced and replace with the new user configured value. This information below here is the URI builder. This breaks down the URI into its base form where you can work on the components of the URI more readily either in raw or form basis. Also, the headers for the request are shown. This is a pretty simple Open API operation. It's GET_request, which has no request body, and a URI parameter status equals available. By clicking the Send button, we invoke the pet store service and capture the response that comes back, including the header information. If you click this toggle here, it will either show or hide the headers that were returned from the API, as well as the actual response body document. We can see in this API operation that the response is a number of different pets and IDs, resulting from our status available GET_request to the pet store API. There are various different settings around the test scenario, but for the quick start here, we're just going to go ahead and take our test case and build it into a test suite scenario where we can run it with and generate test results. So we'll drag our tests from our project window over into our test suite window. We can rename our groups here if we want, but for now let's just call this Group 1. Once we set up our test cases that we want to run in our test suite and the various settings that are provided for our test as far as to where to write results, what detail level of result logging, how much time to wait between invoking tests, and settings such as behavior of test flow to tell SOAPSonar that if a test case fails, should subsequent test continue to be run or should test execution stop. Since we are doing a simple quick start scenario, we will just drag the one test and go ahead and invoke it so that we can see the runtime monitor as it's iterating through the various tests. In this case, it's a single test show the results are completed quickly. We can see one test case has completed successfully. Now we can either return directly to the console where we were or click on the Analyze Results to review the results in Report View. This provides a shortcut to get us to the report view and have the result file selected and the results of the test suite shown. In Run View, the results can be reviewed and reports generated. By selecting the test case, it will show the results of the API call with request, response, headers, success criteria rules evaluated, and task processing logs. If we want to generate, for example, a particular report, we can see that it's going to give us the results based on the mode of testing that was done. In this example, we have not used our detailed success criteria rule settings to determine success or failures, so SOAPSonar defaults to HTTP response code 200 or 400 through 599. We will demonstrate the versatile and extensible success criteria settings in a subsequent video to show how much more robust evaluation rules can be applied dynamically. So in summary, we have created a project and test inputs in Project View, then dragged our test into a test suite in Run View, then ran the test suite and analyzed the results in Report View. That concludes the Quick Start video. In subsequent videos, we will go into much more detail about capabilities such as data-driven testing, task processing, authentication, security, dynamic variables, extensible custom scripting, automated regression testing, and many more built-in features of SOAPSonar.